I remember my grandmother saying to me,
"White people are the fucking worst."
Netflix has long been criticised for their racial identitarian trash. Perhaps most infamous among their catalogue of slime is 2023's Queen Cleopatra.
Cleopatra was black.
To this day, Netflix still maintains their category titled Black Lives Matter 3 years after that organisation was exposed as fraudulent. BLM spent $6 million on a mansion for the organisation's leaders. $1.6 million was handed to the father of BLM co-founder Patrisse Cullors for, quote, security services. $2.1 million went to BLM board member Shalomaya Bowers for consulting. BLM is a profoundly corrupt organisation. Despite this, Netflix have not retracted their tongue from BLM's ass. Netflix's description for their Black Lives Matter category is as follows. Black Lives Matter. Learn more about racial injustice and the black experience in America with this collection of films, series, and documentaries. Included in this collection is Monster, a talented teen implicated in a robbery turned murder, fights for his innocence and integrity against a criminal justice system that's already judged him. Cops and robbers, animation and activism unite in this multimedia spoken word response to police brutality and racial injustice. Colin Blinnack and White, a young, gifted, black athlete, sets out to do the extraordinary. He decides not to just play the game, but change it. 13th, in this thought-provoking documentary, scholars, activists, and politicians analyze the criminalization of African Americans and the US prison boom. Two Distant Strangers. In this Oscar-winning short film, a man trying to get home to his dog gets stuck in a time loop that forces him to relive a deadly run-in with a cop. Wait, so this is Groundhog Day?
But wait! There's more!
Racism.
Check out my review of We Was Groundhog Day for details of that mess. But standing proudly within the Netflix slag heap of race-grifting bollocks is a show so obscenely racist that it makes
Cleopatra was black
look like a run-of-the-mill rant from Don Lemon.
Racist, 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 racist.
Dear White People ran for 4 seasons from 2017 to 2021. It follows a group of race-obsessed black students attending a fictional Ivy League college called Winchester University. Over the course of the series, the students mill around campus talking politics.
We gotta stay woke. I was born woke.
Dear white people, here's a list of acceptable Halloween costumes.
Nigga, I should hit you for thinking that I would hit you.
And that's it. That's the entire show. Dear White People started out awful in season 1 and declined considerably in viewership and viewer ratings over the course of its run. Season 4 received a 16% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes and is one of the worst pieces of media I have ever experienced. The entire season is a musical, despite the fact that the previous 3 were not, but more on that bizarre season of television later in the video. Narratively, each episode of Dear White People is little more than a sequence of boring, sophomoric political lectures delivered through one-dimensional caricatures. Episode 1 takes aim at white people.
You contribute to a racist society.
Delivers the stunning moral revelation that blackface is bad, and informs the viewers of the evils of cops.
Kids are getting shot by cops for being black.
The mouthpiece through which these messages are delivered in episode 1 is Angry Black Chick, who I will be referring to as ABC. But just in case the show's messages are too subtle for some viewers,
Cops everywhere staring down the barrel of a gun at a black man don't see a human being.
Each episode starts with a sneering, fourth-wall-breaking lecture on race politics addressed to the viewer and narrated by Giancarlo Esposito.
Hello, my name is Giancarlo Esposito.
Esposito doesn't play a character in the show. The lectures at the start of every episode are non-diegetic. They are literally just mini-lectures from the showrunner, read aloud by an actor with a nice voice that sounds affably condescending.
He checked his privilege and supported people of color.
Dear White People was created by Justin Simeon, who you won't recognize as the director of 2023 Disney box office bomb, haunted mansion.
Listen, being black is hard. It's really hard. Being human is really hard. But if you think that you've been black your whole life and have suffered nothing for it, like you're in denial. You're in denial and you're repressing stuff because you had to.
Dear White People was based on Simeon's 2014 film of the same name, which was itself based on his first short film created in 2006 and titled Dear White People Rings. Simeon is not exactly a font of creativity. Simeon is a typical trauma dump director. That is, directors who use their projects as therapy sessions into which they can dump their personal and societal hang-ups. I will give Simeon credit in that he was one of the first directors of the woke era to produce work in the trauma dump genre. Other trauma dump productions include
the American Society of Magical Negroes,
Bros, Velma, and She-Hulk. You will be excited to hear that Simeon is currently working on an as-yet untitled Star Trek comedy series alongside fan-favorite producer Alex Kurtzman. Each episode of Dear White People is told from the perspective of one of the main caricatures as they mill around the campus living their boring college life. The plot in season 1 revolves around a Halloween party at which some white students wear blackface as a costume, and the on-campus political fallout from the party, and an incident at a house party in which a cop pulls a gun on a black student, and the fallout from that. And that's it. That's the entire plot. Dear White People is perhaps the most self-awareness bereft piece of media I have ever seen. The main characters spew a never-ending bilge of how oppressed and victimized they are as black people.
They pull guns on us, they shoot us, they kill us.
These are well-educated, middle and upper-class Americans attending an elite university in one of the wealthiest, safest areas on the planet. They walk around in fashionable, expensive clothing and discuss their oppression from the antique, leather-bound chairs of beautiful, spacious campus buildings that have been put at their disposal. None of them work. The idea of labouring for an hourly wage is an alien concept to them, yet these are the people you are expected to listen to and learn from as you sit in solemn silence. Dear White People thinks of itself as radical, but is actually about as edgy as a Taylor Swift song and considerably less engaging. The propaganda is bland, anti-white, sophomoric, establishment approved, and regime endorsed. Race and grievance politics. In a nutshell, white people are evil and everything is racist. Abhorrent politics aside, Dear White People is just an absolutely terrible show, and far from being the radical, edgy cultural statement the showrunner likes to imagine it was, this sixth form rant was just another boring mess that suffered from a massive over-reliance on dated tropes. The first season is 8 years old, and it is amazing how incredibly dated it already is. Episode 1 is about the immediate fallout from the Halloween party. The first two dramatic beats in the episode are both incorrect. One is a dead cliche and the other is a millennial trope. The dead cliche is the use of a quote to open the episode. I taught essay writing for 6 years and I had a long list of common mistakes I warned students against committing. Right at the top of that list was opening the essay with a quote. Apart from being a massively overdone cliche, opening with a quote infuses a piece of writing with a smug sense of self-importance, and a writer should have the confidence to open their work in their own voice. The dead cliche is fourth wall breaking millennial meta-humor. This was a defining trope of 2010's entertainment. She-Hulk and Velma told the bell for this style of humor. Giancarlo Esposito explains, "The writers of this program are depending on my ethnic but non-threatening voice to explain things they are too lazy to set up traditionally."
Meta.
The narration goes on to explain that the narrative opens 2 months into the semester. Keep that in mind because over the course of season 1, not a single character attends class, works on an assignment, or has a discussion with a lecturer. The show's first direct generalized slander against white people comes during a tour of the Halloween party when Giancarlo says, "Even more blackface. Apparently this is a thing that white children are into. Google it." The campus grievance gang show up and trash the party, and we are introduced to the most insufferable of this show's characters, ABC. ABC is the host of a student podcast called Dear White People, where she says things like this.
My jokes don't incarcerate your youth at alarming rates or make it unsafe for you to walk around your own neighborhoods, but yours do.
If ABC's in-your-face snarky biatch shtick was reserved to her podcast, she would merely be unlikable, but this is her entire personality. She talks like this even when she's conversing with friends.
I'm pretty sure the McRib was invented by Republicans in the 80s to destroy black communities.
After her podcast, ABC walks and talks with her friend, generic black girl, whose defining character trait is that she is black. There's a lot of walking and talking in Dear White People, and a lot of sitting and talking, and some lying down and talking, but more on that later. After sex with her boyfriend, Soylennial, ABC does an interview with a student journalist named Token, whose defining character traits are that he is black and gay. The characters spend the next 5 minutes sitting around talking shite. Recall how I mentioned that none of the nominal students in this show go to class or engage in any academic activity? That's because all they do is mill around discussing identity politics. 95% of this show is students milling about, having conversations so insufferable that they would make Helen Keller's ears bleed. Here, the characters discuss the main factions who agitate within the sphere of black grievance politics on campus. The conversation is about as compelling as it sounds. Next, there's another boring conversation between ABC and Soylennial. Then the couple head to a weekly screening of a soap opera attended by black students, where Soylennial and Fresh Prince get into an argument. Soylennial tries to explain how heartbroken he is about the Halloween party, to which Fresh Prince responds, "Listen man, just because you got a black chick on your arm doesn't mean you get to Miley Cyrus all pain, aight?" Rather than defend his honor against this prickly wanker, Soylennial does the soy thing and flees. ABC pursues and tells him, "Oh, so you felt like the odd man out for 2 minutes? Guess what? I feel like that every day on this campus." ABC is trendy, spoiled, and identity politics obsessed. There is nothing odd about her. She is entirely conventional. There is not a single aspect of her appearance, identity, personality, or worldview that is not a product of the liberal American world that she was born into. Were she born in 1950, she would be running around with flowers in her hair, screaming about the evils of the Vietnam War. Were she born in China in 1950, she would be spouting Maoist slogans, waving a little red book in the air, and cheering as her physics professor was beaten to death for refusing to disavow his reactionary teachings. Her assertion that she feels like the odd one out also speaks to a childish naivety, a total absence of worldliness and life experience. She has never been in a situation where everyone around her was speaking a language she did not understand. She has never had to shove through a disorganized throng of perpetually angry-looking men accompanied by burqa-clad women. She has never found herself forced to choose between eating some horrifying foreign meat broth and drinking alcohol that tastes like petrol, or offending those who she sits with. ABC conforms so completely to the norms of her society that she thinks having slightly more melanin than some students makes her special. Ironically, ABC asserts that she is the odd one out because she has been instructed to think of herself as such by the same public indoctrination system that everyone else on campus has been brainwashed in. This is the series' main character, the character with whom the viewer must have the greatest level of emotional investment, and she's a vile little twat. Fearing that ABC isn't already sufficiently unlikable, the showrunners decide to emphasize what a nuclear-level wanker she is in the next scene. ABC's producer tells her that, owing to the Halloween party controversy, he has decided to temporarily fill her radio show slot with a show called Dear Abigail, hosted by a white girl. Hearing that a white girl is on the air on her time, ABC storms into the studio and tells that white girl,
You out.
Okay.
Yeah, excuse me.
Sorry.
Then she goes on a diatribe.
Dear white people, wow, y'all really trying it.
Now, I could refute everything she says, but her rant is so loaded with unqualified assertions that my refutation would take forever. So instead...
You wanna play a little game?
This is Scott Recently, Scott was apprehended while listening to a podcast discussing Taylor Swift's engagement to whoever her fiancé is. Now, Scott does seem repentant.
I just need one more chance. I won't do it again. Please.
So the Despot has decided to leave his fate to chance. If ABC makes 10 or more unqualified assertions, that is, assertions presented without any evidence, in her rant, Scott will be executed. If not, he can go free on condition that he undergo treatment to cure him of his affliction. Karen iPhone, begin.
I get that being reduced to a race-based generalization is a new and devastating experience for some of you. But here's the difference. My jokes don't incarcerate your youth at alarming rates, or make it unsafe for you to walk around your own neighborhoods. But yours do. When you mock or belittle us, you enforce an existing system. Cops everywhere staring down the barrel of a gun at a black man don't see a human being. They see a caricature. A thug.
I just need one more chance. I won't do it again. Please. Just...
ABC makes 16 unqualified assertions about the evils of white people over the course of her rant, then the episode ends. A mixed-race rich girl who is at least 2/3 European ranting about how difficult it is being black. You know what this reminds me of? Episode 2 follows Token, a gay black character whose personality is that he has no personality. He also has no integrity. He is a student journalist but leaks a big scoop to ABC before the college newspaper can publish it because the scoop would be politically damaging to ABC and he considers her an ideological ally. Token then lies to his editor about this treachery, denying that he leaked the scoop to ABC. This is not only a treacherous lie, it is a theft of the editor's time because now the editor has to waste time trying to find out where the leak came from, and should the editor misidentify the source of the leak, it could get another student in very serious trouble. Token is lying, stealing the editor's time, and putting other students at risk for purely ideological reasons because he's a disgusting wee scrote who hasn't got the balls to own up to his own actions. Token is an awful character. He manages to be extremely unlikable while also having less personality than a Kamala Harris coffee tumbler. Token's main function in the series is to be an intersectional Token character. He is black and he is gay.
You're a gay black man.
You are black and gay.
A reflection of myself, a reflection of myself.
Token's story follows him on a journey of sexual and racial self-discovery. He first discovers black identitarianism, then embraces his homosexuality. Episode 2 finishes with Token masturbating to a sexual fantasy involving his ripped roommate. Yes, really. In 2017, Anno Domini, major entertainment studios such as Netflix thought that general audiences, not a niche audience, the general public, needed to watch a detestable, boring teenager wank himself off to the thought of being fucked by his ripped roommate, and critics responded to such scenes with glowing praise.
Loyal subscribers, we have created a new show for you about angry race politics featuring an unlikable teenage dweeb masturbating to homosexual fantasies.
But I don't want to watch angry race politics and unlikable teenage dweebs masturbating to homosexual fantasies.
Well, you fucking will do this, like.
This was typical of Netflix during peak woke. They were supremely eager to shove their viewers' noses in filth like this. This sweet turd wanking himself off on your television was caused by the same kind of diseased thinking that convinced executives at Universal to give $20 million to a complete nobody called Billy Eichner so he could go film himself scrunching his flabby face up in sexual ecstasy as a roided twink anally penetrates him. The whole scene brought to audiences in full bright lighting, the camera holding directly over the scene so that the viewer can get a good look at Eichner's expression at the very moment roided twink's erect penis enters Eichner's fecal passage. The desire to create content that would cause the mythical modern audience to descend from the heavens with a caravan of gold in tow is what caused Sony Pictures to greenlight a $150 million Ghostbusters production starring a gang of middle-aged slatterns the year before Dear White People came out. The myth of the modern audience would later cause Sony to spend $400 million on Concord, a hero shooter featuring body-positive, amorphous, androgynous blobs, among other hideous creature designs motivated entirely by woke identity politics. Concord was the biggest financial disaster in video game history. Today, we know for a fact that Hollywood's El Dorado, the modern audience, does not exist. Following years of mounting evidence, the final, incontestable proof that the modern audience is an ideologically motivated delusion arrived. Episode 2 of Dear White People is too boring to go over in any detail. Token just wanders around aimlessly, then has a wank. That is literally the plot. He talks to his roommate at breakfast, then considers having a wank but doesn't, then mills around the college newspaper office talking about the Halloween party for a while, then mills around his dorm, then goes to a party where he mills around, meets a couple of people who want to have a threesome with him, and tell him how evil white people are.
White people are the fucking worst.
Right. Then he does some more milling around the campus newspaper, back to the dorm, mill around, tells his roommate he's gay, has a wank, the end. Apparently, this is what a day in the life of an Ivy League student looks like. Episode 3 follows the dean's son, Troy, as he campaigns to be elected student president. It opens with a flashback to the Halloween party because the writers of this show don't know the difference between a plot and an inciting incident. An inciting incident is supposed to open the plot. It is not supposed to be the plot. Episode 3 is shite, but it is also the only part of this entire season that I can say has anything like redeeming aspects. Troy is the most likable character by far, the good guy alpha archetype. ABC doesn't like him, which is a plus, and he has the best moment in the entire season. More on that later. Episode 3 works because it has a goal to work toward, Troy's election as student president, which sends him off on a perfectly watchable electioneering tour of the campus. The scenes between Troy and his father, the dean, in which they strategize Troy's victory, are the closest the show ever gets to compelling dialogue. Troy's campaign boils down to agreeing with as many people as possible and spouting off a series of vapid, inoffensive platitudes. He clearly has no political vision. He sees the presidency as icing on his resume, and that's it. It's political satire 101, but it works. The 7-minute long campaign sequence is the only time Dear White People works. The rest of the episode is the usual, milling around talking shite, non sequitur meandering non-plot, yet more fallout from the Halloween party because that dead horse twitched a little, so the writers think they can flog more plot out of it. Then Troy bangs a professor, a drunk jock falls out a window and dies. The end. Episode 3 is mostly forgettable filler, but 1/3 of it is watchable. At its brief peak, Dear White People almost achieves mediocrity, then it's all downhill. Episode 4 focuses on the most boring character of the series, ABC's roommate. A character so nondescript and lacking in personality that I can't even think of a name for her, so we must leave her naming to the gods. Scott pulled through after his previous execution because the bullet only grazed his skull, so now we'll finish the job. If Scott dies immediately, we'll give ABC's roommate a random fantasy name, otherwise she'll get a Star Wars name.
I just need one more chance. I will do it again.
Okay, Star Wars it is. She will be called Tiona Waldin. The first 10 minutes consists of flashbacks to Tiona Waldin's childhood and her freshman year. These flashbacks fail to build Waldin's character because they are focused entirely on race. The rest of the opening 10 minutes is aimless milling around and tedious girl drama, typical of Dear White People's shapeless, non-goal-oriented non-plot. After a disappointing night during which Waldin fails to get an invite into a frat party, she returns home where the TV instructs her to get angry about police brutality.
You are racism.
Flawless victory.
So she gets angry about police brutality. ABC, Waldin, and Fresh Prince learn that several cops have been found not guilty of murder by police brutality. Fresh Prince responds to the news thusly.
They can't keep doing this to us.
Rather than consider context, the show frames the incident through the us and them narrative. Fresh Prince claims that brutality is being done to us, which is so absurd that it's basically parody. This dickhead is luxuriating on the campus of an Ivy League university, yet claims that he personally is being oppressed by proxy, that he forms part of a victimized collective, but he doesn't live where they live. He doesn't pass armed drug dealers on his way home. His family never had to worry about paying rent. He has no rightful claim to fellowship with those at the bottom of the socio-economic ladder, but believes that the color of his skin entitles him to that fellowship. He is using the death of a stranger to confer upon himself victimhood and the increased social status that goes with it, and he expects a pat on his out-of-fashion head for this masquerade.
We gotta stay woke. I was born woke.
This is some of the hammiest writing I have ever.
Oh my soy steamed superfood sustainable mushroom flat white mocha pecan crunch cortado spice chai oatmeal green drop blue venti nectarine sugar orange French press flash brew Java fusion premium blend frappe. Okay, let's unpack this. The word woke here doesn't carry the meaning of the bastardized term of white crywooks who appropriated the term from African Americans in a typical example of white colonization of black culture. The word originally meant being awake.
Yes, spare me, non-playable sheep. I am aware that woke was originally a term used by black Americans and that it meant being awake to perceived racial prejudices. No one speaks like this. Imagine a conservative looking on in disgust at a pride parade featuring naked men with their hairy balls hanging loose in front of kids, then turning to his MAGA hat clad friend and crying out, "We gotta stay beast!" This is what I mean when I say these are caricatures, not characters.
You know the BSU does the same things and we don't adhere to regressive gender roles.
In this scene, ABC goes to Waldin's sorority meeting and nothing happens. This scene is a typical example of Justin Simeon's writing. The scene has no narrative purpose in the plot. It exists solely as an excuse to ram some trite political assertion down the viewer's throat. We see the exact same problem in the next scene, in which ABC and Waldin have a chat.
The oppressed do not get their freedom by appealing to the morality of their oppressor.
And in yet another example of perfectly natural conversation,
people take one look at my skin and they assume that I'm poor or uneducated.
People take one gosh darn look at this here MAGA hat and my hillbilly beard and immediately assume I'm fucking my sister and I drink Busch Light. Well, I ain't never drank a Busch in my life. Except that one time at my cousin's place because there was nothing else in the fridge, but you know how it is when you got the munchies after you've been fucking. Okay, I'm sure we can move on to the next scene now. Surely, the writers can only cram so much political propaganda into a single character exchange.
Dear white people!
Oh shit, here we go again.
You made me hate myself as a kid, so now I hate you and—
After ABC and Waldin fall out, the script won't even let them make up without crowbarring in some politics.
It's my light-skinned privilege to give you this peace offering.
This show literally cannot go 1 minute without making some unqualified political assertion, and this is actually typical of the media landscape during peak woke. It can be easy to forget just how completely saturated in identity politics everything was a few years ago. In 2022, I made a video called "Wokeness Has Poisoned Netflix." The video was really just a frustrated, angry rant about how fucking sick I was of everything on Netflix being woke garbage. I was working 2 jobs to support my wife and kid, and when I did get the opportunity to chill out and watch something, I was constantly getting bollocks like this shoved down my throat.
I'm black and I'm gay, and when you grow up African American and gay, you're taught there's a different set of rules that you're gonna always have to play by.
Would you care to guess the topic of that documentary in which some random idiot lectures the audience on the perils of being a black homosexual in the USA? That episode was about 90s sports video games. The show is called High Score, a retro video games documentary. What the hell does intersectional identity politics have to do with Super NES, Sega Mega Drive, or PlayStation? And the wokeness wasn't restricted to just that episode. Every episode of that show had a dedicated woke section. Episode 1 featured the story of a competitive gamer from the 80s. Of the hundreds of successful competitive gamers the showrunners could have chosen, why did they choose this individual?
When I played video games back in the 80s, it allowed me to be myself. It allowed me to play as a female. I've always identified as a woman. Unfortunately, my anatomy didn't agree.
Episode 3 features the story of Gay Blade, an 80s indie game made by a homosexual. The game's Wikipedia description reads as follows. The player battles hordes of homophobic enemies, including pastors, police, rednecks, and skinheads. Netflix made sure to include gameplay showing the player murder a cop. The game caption reads, "You just destroyed a homophobic cop." Netflix made a documentary glorifying a video game which encourages the gamer to murder those who do not approve of homosexuality. The guy who made the game is given extensive screen time to whinge about his supposed oppression. The game developer himself never went on to accomplish anything in the video game industry. In fact, he never made another game. Netflix could have examined the indie work of John Romero, who they had access to because he appears in episode 6 talking about Doom. Romero made 29 indie games in the 80s, or Netflix could have interviewed any number of other successful indie devs of the time. Instead, they went with some random nobody because he's gay and hates all the right people. Episode 4 of High Score featured Mr. Reflection.
A reflection of myself.
Mr. Reflection asserts that prior to Madden 95, there were no black people in video games.
We put African Americans in the game, and it was provocative because people had never seen black people. Just hadn't. It was a new thing.
Despite the fact that in the previous episode, the series featured a game with a black character being murdered for the capital crime of homophobia.
A reflection of myself.
There was also Daley Thompson's Decathlon, 1984, Frank Bruno's Boxing, 1985, Mike Tyson Punch-Out, 1987, Street Fighter, 1987, Narc, 1988, Chase HQ, 1988, and Street Fighter 2, 1991. Among others.
People had never seen black people.
Episode 5 features a scolding comment about how any game that features violence against women is bad because the Me Too witch hunt was in full swing at the time.
Today would not play well with Me Too.
This was the poisonous cultural atmosphere into which Dear White People was spawned. This horrible, oppressive, identity-obsessed culture was the sole reason a show as wretched as Dear White People was greenlit and managed to hobble its way to 4 fucking seasons on Netflix, a platform on which the average lifespan of a show is 2 seasons. Episode 5 follows Fresh Prince as he walks aimlessly around campus, complaining that everything is racist. The episode starts with Karen running away from Fresh Prince at an ATM because she racistly assumes that he's going to rob her. How dare she put her safety before not being called racist? Then Fresh Prince is misidentified by a football coach because they all look the same. But I will give the writers credit, they go almost 1 full minute without presenting a direct political lecture to the audience.
You could only vote if you owned land and didn't have a vagina.
Almost. Fresh Prince, ABC, and a couple of other layabouts get into bragging rights about who is the most woke.
Not woke. Woke. Cuspy.
This is immediately followed by Martin Luther King launching an unqualified attack on Steve Jobs.
Yo, Steve Jobs was a monster who used Chinese slave labor to make his products.
The characters in this show don't seem to have an internal world that exists outside the framework of identity politics. During a walking and talking conversation, Fresh Prince and 3 of his racial allies have a conversation about dating, during which the following dialogue is spoken. "I'm not sure I could let a white man colonize my body. How many times are we fed the narrative that black men aren't good enough and that we need a white savior? I plan to marry me a dark-skinned sister, have the ashiest, blackest babies possible. Won't catch me in these streets with a white V.
Catch me in these streets with a white V."
None of these characters have any identity. They're all just mouthpieces for the director to spew his nonsense. And again, no evidence, no qualification for anything that is being said. What narrative that black men aren't good enough is What's-Her-Face referring to? Who is propagating this narrative? So the conversation moves on to football, and surely we're done with politics for 30 seconds. Surely we can just have a normal conversation about
Football is the only time a black face gets celebrated on this campus.
So an Asian girl approaches the group, and I don't know what planet this simian creature came from, but on Earth, no one speaks like this. What's up? You guys talking shit about everyone?
Nah, just me.
Damn, 'cause present company excluded, I hate everyone here. 1, I'm obsessed with you. 2, who are you? I'm the girl you guys are gonna share your weed with. Ikumi, your new catch-all Asian friend. The fact that Ikumi introduces herself by making reference to her race is an indication of how Simeon sees the world. He perceives people not as individuals with unique inner worlds, but rather as representatives of identity groups, and when a member of an identity group does not represent that group the way Simeon thinks he should, that individual's name is used as a slur.
Well, so I'm not woke? Clarence Thomas, pumpkin pie eating motherfucker.
Clarence Thomas is a conservative Supreme Court justice. So the Grievance Gang go see a movie. Their discussion of the movie is entirely political, and it takes exactly 10 seconds before this show's 48 millionth assertion that white man bad.
When they do accidentally give us a quality movie, they think that gives them a pass to double down on this shit.
The characters are staring directly into the camera here and literally speaking down to the viewer in a condescending tone, hence the placement of the camera well below character eye level. Asian girl says, "Yeah, must really suck to only have 2 movies this month with people that look like you. Try having the same 2 options since 2000. All I got is Joy Luck Club and Crouching Tiger." This line reveals the disgusting cultural chauvinism of Justin Simeon. As far as he's concerned, if a movie isn't approved of by a broad American audience, it doesn't exist. Asian Girl can choose from a vast number of movies that come out of Japan, Korea, China, and Taiwan if she wants to see a reflection of herself in movies. But Simeon doesn't regard these movies as real because they're not American. Simeon is exactly the kind of rank little wankstain that would bang on all day about unconscious racism, but he himself is entirely ignorant of his own condescending, America-centric worldview. As for the idea that it was important for minorities to see themselves in media, this is essentially the foundation of the myth of the modern audience, which even Hollywood no longer believes, following a decade of failed projects which proved that the modern audience does not exist. The list of failed made for the modern audience productions is vast, but here are a few infamous examples. Terminator, Dark Fate, The Acolyte, Snow White and the 7 CGI Abominations, Bros, Ironheart, Captain America, Brave New Cape Shit, The Marvels, Wish.
I'm a star!
Watch out world, here I are! Among many, many others. Fresh Prince gets drunk at a party and wins at a drinking trivia game because he's far smarter than all the white folk. A party seems an appropriate setting to let the show chill out and have a good time, you know, cool it with the anti-white racism for 2 minutes. But no, because the writers need to remind the audience that racism.
This game is culturally biased against me and I'm still whooping that ass.
And then we get the, are white people allowed to say the N-word if it's the lyrics to a song? Argument, which devolves the episode into yet another tedious argument between Fresh Prince and some jock, which turns heated, someone calls the cops, and the racist white cop shows up, and in a perfect example of a police brutality strawman, the cop pulls his gun on Fresh Prince because Fresh Prince wouldn't show his ID.
Fuck these pigs, man.
I said show me some ID! Fresh Prince shows his ID and the cop sends everyone home. Episode 6 is the police brutality episode. This episode is a reminder of the BLM narrative on police brutality before police body cams were made mandatory at BLM's insistence, the result of which was the utter decimation of BLM's narrative on police brutality. This time the episode doesn't get close to 1 minute before it.
Our skin color is not a weapon.
ABC tries to chat with What's-Her-Face and there's
waist-thin aesthetics gonna have to wait until America solves its race issues.
Hanging out with these people would be fucking exhausting. All they do is whine. Sometimes their whining is serious and angry, sometimes snarky, sometimes jokey, but they always mean it. The totality of their conversation is encompassed by one topic: the negative experience of being black in America.
Hope you didn't go anywhere because racism sure didn't.
It's fatiguing and it's so fucking boring. This is the racism version of Bros, a movie in which all the main character talks about is
butch lesbian or a trans woman of color, cis white gay man, LGBTQ plus gay, a lesbian queer gay couple. Our relationships are different, our sex lives are different. Gay people, the LGBTQ plus.
See my Bros video for details. So the students have a big debate about police brutality, and there is a moment in this debate which breaks the cringe-o-meter. I am used to cringe. Like many of you, I am a survivor of the 2020 Hollywood celebrity video.
I take responsibility.
And even today, I still sometimes wake up in a cold sweat, screaming, my once peaceful sleep brutalized by the trauma nightmares that rage through my mind as a result of this.
Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try.
No hell below us.
Above us only sky.
Consider yourself warned, in the words of the late, great Alan Rickman.
Get ready.
No! They pull guns on us, they shoot us, they kill us. That has not changed in 200 years.
Who the fuck is us? This young woman is an upper-class American attending an Ivy League college in one of the wealthiest areas of the planet. By us, does she mean spoiled, insufferable, wanker rich kids who have never worked a day in their lives? Is us hot sorority girls whose biggest problem in life is that Chad is fucking that total slut Stacy after he totally said we were a thing? And the brass wank on this bitch to compare the current circumstances of this spoiled gaggle of layabouts to the suffering of black Americans enslaved in conditions that these entitled brats literally cannot imagine, because those conditions are so far removed from the life of opulence and luxury that they have been born into. An aspect of these kids' lifestyle that should indicate the immense privilege that they luxuriate in is the vast amount of leisure time they have. All the characters in Dear White People seem to do is lounge around talking shite. Sometimes they lounge around talking shite on a podcast, sometimes in a nominal meeting. Occasionally they walk and talk shite while on their way to somewhere else to lounge around and talk shite. They don't attend class, none of them have a job, they never study, they don't read, they don't volunteer, they don't even exercise. The only activity that breaks up the monotony of lounging around and talking shite is partying. Take ABC as an example. In episode 6, she walks to Fresh Prince's place hoping to sit around and talk shite with him. That's not happening, so she heads over to the Black Student Union where she sits around talking shite. Then she heads over to the Dean's office to talk more shite, then wanders aimlessly around with her friends talking shite, then heads to a cafe to talk shite with her boyfriend and his friends, then she goes to an open mic night where she finally manages to shut up because Fresh Prince literally tells her to shut up. Oh no, wait, she's talking shite again.
How many cultures did she appropriate in that set?
Then she walks and talks shite with Fresh Prince, and that is her day at an Ivy League university, which cost $300 a day on average to attend. Great job, ABC. $300 well spent. Be sure to make a vlog about your next day of aimless, zero productivity milling about. I am a student of propaganda. I have a propaganda video series which is currently 4 videos long. Thank you to everyone who shared my British ads video, by the way. Netflix wanted a series which would be black people aggressively lecturing at white people because racism. Dear White People was the wrong pick. A gaggle of profoundly detestable, pampered whiners is not the conduit through which you want to communicate your propaganda. Another huge problem with Dear White People from a propaganda perspective is that the show has no villains. The showrunners probably think of the white jocks as the villains, but no. Jocks as the villains was a thoroughly played out trope by the 90s, and blackface at a Halloween party is frown-inducing at best, but honestly not something anyone can muster up even a single genuine fuck for. And racism as the villain doesn't work either. It's too abstract, too nebulous, because to these people, everything is racist. Here is an article from The Guardian, not The Onion, The Guardian, dated July 7th, 2023, authored by a woman whose name I couldn't be bothered trying to pronounce. My white friends trivialize racism by labeling everything racist. How do I tell them to stop? Without a foil to act against, the brats in Dear White People come off as, well, what they are. Spoiled, lazy, layabout wanker college kids cosplaying as civil rights heroes. They're like children running around a playground slaying imaginary dragons. Adults engaged in delayed fantasy play because daddy went out for cigarettes one day. It's a truly pathetic spectacle. If I was head of Netflix propaganda department, I would have commissioned a show about a black-owned startup called Mandela. Mandela's mission is to make medication affordable for low-income minorities, and Big Pharma doesn't like it. Mandela is struggling to make it in the racist world of Silicon Valley. The startup hires reformed criminals and has scholarships for hard-working poor black kids. villains, this scenario also creates the opportunity for juicy villains. Instead of Chad from the frat house, our villain is Brad from Romney and Romney, a Wall Street vulture capitalist firm that wants to buy Mandela, merge it with some other acquisition to raise the stock price, then do a rug pull, sell all the company held stock, fucking over the shareholders, and liquidate the company shortly thereafter. Brad is working with Brett, a white turncoat who works for Mandela, but is engaged in insider trading and accepting bribes from Chet, a big pharma spy posing as a consultant and conspiring to sink the company. And of course, we'll have our typical big pharma bad guys who all look like Patrick Bateman. Big pharma bad, Wall Street bad, white people bad, small startups good, black people good.
It's perfect.
A decent portion of the audience will be taken in by propaganda like Mandela because these viewers rightfully hate Big Pharma and Wall Street and identify with the hard-working little guys getting strangled by the powerful corporate monsters. No portion of the audience will be taken in by dear white people because no one outside of the wankerest bubble of ivory tower academic fart suckers is going to identify with this smug gang of whiny, entitled, pampered brats.
A reflection of myself.
You saw a reflection of yourself.
A reflection of myself.
A reflection of yourself.
It is ironic that Simeon spits lectures into the face of his audience about the inability of minorities to see themselves in mainstream entertainment, because no one other than the most deranged narcissist is going to look at dear white people and see there a reflection of themselves.
A reflection of myself.
Next, ABC goes to meet her boyfriend's friends. Now, we're going to play a little game.
You want to play a little game?
This is Scott. He was briefly dead, but he somehow returned. Now, Scott was caught attending a Taylor Swift concert after informing his bros that he couldn't make the piss up that night because he had PT at the gym. He chose Taylor Swift over his own bros.
I would do it again. Please.
Now, if ABC's conversation with her boyfriend's friends goes 15 seconds without the topic of racism coming up, Scott will be set free upon condition that he undergo treatment. If not, he will be executed. Karen, iPhone, start the clock.
Hey, nice to meet you.
You too.
Your show, brilliant.
You listen?
Who doesn't?
Based on recent events, the administration.
You know, they're really shitting the bed on this one. I knew we were dealing with institutional racism, but
The conversation goes about as you would expect. I could not be bollocksed going over it in detail, so here is a brief rundown of the talking points that hipster couple, ABC and Soylennial go through. Institutional racism, POCs are oppressed in academia, new Jim Crow, slavery, the Bushes are bad, all three of them, including Jeb, Republicans are all evil rich white people who hunt large land mammals and hate poor people, guns are bad, blackface is bad, cops are bad, public victims don't have time to grieve because their trauma is immediately politicized. The writers crammed all that tedious rubbish into a 2.5 minute long conversation. At the open mic night, Fresh Prince gets up and performs some slam poetry. His performance is a perfect encapsulation of woke art. The goal of woke art is not to stand on its own as an exemplar of an artistic discipline, like, for example, the 2025 pulp song Spike Island, which is surprisingly excellent. Hey, editing Despot here. I had not seen this music video prior to putting together this YouTube video. I had no idea that Pulp had used AI to make a video for this song. This is absolutely atrocious. I mean, this disgusts me at a very deep level. Pulp did some of the best music videos of the 90s, and to see them reduced to this is just sad. It's truly pathetic. This is a thoroughly out-of-touch band who think that they're being cool and innovative by jumping on this horrible technology that everybody rightfully fucking despises. It makes me sick. It's such disgusting, low-effort garbage. And to ruin such a brilliant song like this as well is a real tragedy. It's sickening. absolutely sickening. Rather, woke art is a cultural parasite which latches itself onto an existing work, simultaneously dependent upon that work while seeking to destroy it. A perfect example of woke art is Fearless Girl, a statue of a girl boss placed in front of the famous Wall Street Bull. Fearless Girl Boss was commissioned by State Street Global Advisors, an asset management corporation, and erected in 2017, the same year Dear White People was defecated onto Netflix. Fearless Girl Boss's function was to diminish and belittle Charging Bull, to slander Charging Bull as a symbol of patriarchy which must be stood against, and to provide a couple of cheap ESG points for Patrick Bateman and his pals. Fearless Girl Boss faced universal backlash from all sides, criticised as vulgar virtue signalling, hypocritical corporate art, and an eyesore. It was removed in 2018. In contrast, Charging Bull was erected as a temporary installation in 1989, but was so popular that it remained in place and became an iconic symbol of Wall Street. Interesting fact, Charging Bull was given police protection in 2020 during the George Floyd riots, as it had been threatened with destruction by the mob. But the Chad Bull was too capitalist to be destroyed by the virgin mob. It survived Fearless Girl Boss, and it survived the mob of trash unleashed by some junky degenerate's fentanyl overdose. For the purposes of avoiding copyright penalties, I will reproduce Fresh Prince's piece using the latest AI video generating technology. Karen iPhone, reroute all power from the de-gimpifier and create an AI rendition of Fresh Prince's slam poetry performance.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, among these, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Unless you're loud and black and possess an opinion, then all you get is a bullet that held me at bay, a bullet that can puncture my skin, take my dreams away.
Wait, hold on, as opposed to a bullet that can't puncture your skin? Whatever.
A bullet that can silence the words that I speak.
Wait, no, stop. You mean a bullet that can silence my voice? The words you speak have already been spoken, thus cannot be silenced. Also, the words you speak have no voice, nor agency, therefore they cannot be silenced.
To my mother, just because I'm other!
No, stop! You can't use an opposite without an antecedent. And this sentence is poorly constructed because it implies that your mother is the thing you're opposite to, largely as a result of your failure to precede the opposite with an antecedent. Now get this piece of fucking garbage out of my sight, you unsalvageable retard! Sorry, I used to be a writing teacher. Old habits. I'm not going to watch the rest of Fresh Prince's rant. My standard as a writing teacher was always that if a piece of writing does not stand up to cursory scrutiny, it is not worth the reader's time. The rest of the episode is ABC and Fresh Prince walking and talking shite for 5 minutes. We could examine these 5 minutes. Or...
You want to play a little game?
Scott, I have decided that for the purposes of our viewers' entertainment, you somehow survived your previous execution. Now, answer the following question correctly, and you live. Get it wrong, and you die. For what movie did the late great Robert Redford win the Academy Award for Best Actor?
It was the 1980 film Ordinary People, starring Donald Sutherland.
Well done, Scott. Robert Redford did indeed win an Oscar for that movie. A Best Director Oscar.
I just need one more chance.
Episode 7 is about Soylennial, a paragon of the Hollywood male character. Unassertive, bereft of masculinity, non-threatening, wimpy, slouchy, baggy, excessively agreeable, boringly affable, pushyish, wallflowery. A total pushover. This guy oozes my wife's boyfriend energy. The episode literally does not make it 10 seconds before the politics start in. Martin Luther Cream says something about oppressive cops, to which Karen responds complaining about misogyny.
Oppressive cops! Misogyny.
The opening monologue begins by congratulating Soylennial for being a good cuck.
He checked his privilege and supported people of color.
2 seconds later, What's-Her-Face says, I can't believe Chad got that travel grant over me. It's bullshit. I killed that essay. And in yet another instance of teeth on chalkboard dialogue, ABC responds, "It wouldn't be America if mediocre white men weren't being rewarded over women of color." Exactly. Mediocre white men like Kathleen Kennedy, former Amazon studio head Jennifer Salke, who oversaw the Rings of Power calamity, She-Hulk showrunner Jessica Gao, Velma showrunner Mindy Kaling, the world's best paid layabout Phoebe Waller-Bridge, who Jennifer Salke contracted with Amazon Studios for $60 million. In 2019, in the 7 years since, Phoebe Waller-Bridge has produced a grand total of 0 content for Amazon. Obi-Wan Kenobi director Deborah Chow, The Marvels director Nia DaCosta, former head of Pixar Animation Jennifer Lee, who executive produced Strange World, Elio, and Wish.
I'm a star.
Watch out, world, here I are. Before stepping down. Former Secret Service Director Kim Cheadle and the former next President of the United States, Kamala Harris. And that is to name but a few of the mediocre white men who were granted their positions over much more deserving women of color.
Mediocre white men.
Mediocre straight men.
Episode 7 informs the viewer that ABC and Soylennial are film majors, which I did not know. These wankers are so profoundly useless, so bone idle, that in the previous 6 episodes they never engaged in any activity to even hint that they are studying film, or indeed studying anything, unless milling around talking shite is now an academic discipline. After the opening monologue, I laughed out loud at the first scene. Would you care to hazard a guess as to the content of that scene? Anyone? Scott? Now, Scott, don't pretend that you can't speak just because a bullet lodged itself in your brain but you somehow miraculously survived. Take a guess.
Well, are the characters sitting around talking shite?
Yes, Scott, they are. Well done. ABC and the Grievance Gang lounge around complaining about whatever is on the complaint menu that day. A huge problem with Dear White People is that the characters never do anything. They just sit around yapping. The script is like something written by a freshman film studies student who's recently watched Pulp Fiction for the first time. It's absolutely mind-numbing. This dreck is completely unwatchable, and Netflix made 40 fucking episodes of it. So I can barely pay attention to the social justice screed these characters are defecating out. I think they're planning a protest because what else does an Ivy League student have to do on a Tuesday night? But at one point, ABC says, "We are going to bring together every marginalized group on this campus and demand justice." Marginalized means pushed to the margins of society, treated as a peripheral irrelevance. The vast majority of students on that campus are from the wealthy American elite. The scholarship kids, far from being pushed to the margin, have been recognized for their talents. No one on that campus is marginalized. They are at the heart of the entrenched elitist liberal establishment, and as long as they continue parroting the right opinions, they are all guaranteed cushy jobs upon graduation, especially those with impressive diversity credentials. So after more sitting and yapping, the scene ends, and then there's a scene of Soylennial walking and yapping with what's-her-face. Then more sit yapping, then walk yapping, sit yapping, walk yapping, sit yapping, walk yapping. But then something amazing happens. While walking and yapping, Soylennial and what's-her-face sit down and start yapping. Soylennial admits that he was the one who called the cops, leading to the police brutality incident. So in the next scene, ABC, Soylennial, Karen, and the guy who looks like the Midwit meme sit around a table yapping. And I admit, this scene does stir in me a mix of emotions. I experience gratitude that Netflix has a 1.5x speed function, but despondency that it doesn't have a 2x speed function. So after the sit yap, the show mixes things up and gives us more walk yap. During this walk yap, Soylennial yaps about how much he loves ABC. Now, I know I said that this episode is just a sequence of people sitting and talking shite and walking and talking shite, but I am a humble despot, and I can admit when I am wrong. Because in this next scene, ABC and Soylennial lie down and talk shite. The next morning, ABC finds out that Soylennial called the cops on Fresh Prince. He goes to the Black Student Union to apologise. Everyone there glares daggers at this supposed white ally who, as it turns out, was a racist white man all along. And that's the episode, an interminable sequence of yapping intended to communicate that no white man can ever be trusted. Nothing happens, nobody does anything, there is not a single significant action, just yap, yap, yap. Now, I have not started watching episode 8 yet, but I'm guessing guessing that after the condescending opening monologue, the first scene will be characters sitting round talking shite. Scott, if I'm right, you die. Karen iPhone, roll it.
That's not the point. It's really
Episode 8 is about Token. He's still as detestable and deficient in integrity as he was before, and equally as lacking in personality. Lazy writing is usually associated with plot conveniences. A recent example is a Swedish soldier showing up in 28 years later to Deus Ex Machina Spike and his mom, the single worst plot beat in that entire movie. But there are other ways in which lazy writing manifests. Here's an example.
What's the opposite of pause? Not silencing millions with your heterosupremacy.
The writer couldn't be bothered and probably doesn't have the skill to introduce this sexual identitarian message into the dialogue in a naturalistic manner, so she just shoves the message into one of the characters' mouths while he's playing a video game. I knew as soon as I saw this exchange that this episode was written by someone who has never played a video game in their life, and sure enough, the writer is 65-year-old female producer Nastaran Dubai. I was going to tell you her most notable credit, but having browsed her IMDb, of her maybe 40 credits, the only one I recognise is 2022 box office bomb Amsterdam, for which she is credited The Producers Wish to Thank. Token and Troy head to a parade, and while Token is warning Troy not to speak to his rival from the student newspaper, Fresh Prince and ABC show up. The fourth word out of ABC's mouth is
racist.
Fantastic writing, Nastaran. Awesome segue into that messaging about racism being bad. Chad shows up, and he's white and blonde, so ABC gives him the finger and walks off. I'm no armchair psychologist, but I don't think you need to be an expert in psychology to theorize that Justin Simien is using this show as a means of trauma dumping about all the white jocks he hated in school. Similar to how the Velma showrunners used Fred as an emotional punching bag upon which to unleash their long pent-up hatred of all the cool kids that wanted nothing to do with them. You can really tell that by episode 8, Dear White People has completely run out of plot and is just spinning its wheels. Token and Troy hang out talking about events of past episodes while Token occasionally swipes Grindr, and that's it. That's the entire episode. A major problem with Dear White People is that it doesn't have a story engine. That is, a dramatic mechanism which can be used to generate plot. For example, Dexter's story engine is Dexter's urge to commit murder, which causes him to investigate, hunt down, and execute criminals. Death Note's plot engine is the investigation into Kira and Light and Elle's deathmatch game of wits. Stranger Things 4's plot engine is the investigation into the ongoing, inexplicable murder of students. Dear White People has a premise. There's a Halloween party at which some students do blackface, so the grievance crowd grab their pitchforks and go witch hunting. But there's no story engine. There's no mystery that must be solved, or anonymous serial prankster who has recently upped the ante by kidnapping a freshman girl and burying her alive with an oxygen tank before anonymously alerting the authorities who managed to dig her out before she runs out of oxygen. Or even something simpler like a particularly likable student's budding MMA career, which generates fights for other students to attend and get excited about, or even a basic will they won't they nomance. Fucking anything will do. But there's nothing here. A thing happens, a Halloween party, then after everyone gets bored talking about thing 1, thing 2 happens, a police brutality incident, and after the show gets bored talking about that, I don't fucking... Token hooks up with another guy and Troy is there. This show has literally hundreds of political messages, thousands over the course of all 4 seasons.
Generically powerful white people.
But it does not contain a single original idea. Nothing justifies the existence of Dear White People as a piece of entertainment media.
For marginalized people, a lot of energy is devoted to justifying your existence in spaces.
I didn't mean it like that, Mr. Reflection. I meant the
reflection of myself.
Reflection of yourself.
After getting home from their bender, Token writes about his conversation with President Troy in an article for the college newspaper, betraying Troy by framing a private, off-the-record conversation as if it were an interview conducted by mutual agreement and under journalistic standards. He slanders Troy, writes some inane comment about racism, and sends the article. Again, complete disregard of journalistic ethics, and we can now add treachery to the toxic mix of traits that form this putrid little scrote. Episode 8 is the least political episode of the season. The fact that it is also the most boring episode reveals that without sophomoric identity politics, the show becomes nothing. Empty characters milling aimlessly around having empty conversations. Episode 9 follows what was her name? Mondlin, the fashionable sorority girl who has been oppressed by the white man for 200 years.
200 years.
The first sentence of the episode is expended slandering the United States as a
ass-backwards patriarchal corporate republic we call a country.
Netflix, if you want to slander the United States, do not make the plaintiff a spoiled rich girl to whom the United States has provided a life of luxury and opportunity that was unimaginable to almost 100% of people who ever lived. Your audience will not connect with whatever message she is parroting. Mondin goes on a date with Chad, and here it is insinuated that while Chad would like to have sex with her, he doesn't like the idea of bringing her home to mom and dad because she's black.
I could never bring you home to my parents, but I'd love to hook up, at least so I could tell my buddies what it was like to have a taste of your dark chocolate, you know what I'm saying?
This scene is one of Dear White People's many snide, casual anti-white racisms. The show makes some slanderous assertion against white people, offers no evidence, and moves on to the next slander, and so forth, in an endless, tedious diatribe. Mordlin and Troy head to a college society dinner hosted by the dean so they can stand around and talk shite. In an attempt to defend the existence of racial segregation on campus, specifically the Black Student Union and black-only dorms, the dean of the college says the following:
"It is a wonderful tradition. Allowing dorms to take their natural demographic shape gives students a pride in celebrating their own enclave.
Bear in mind, the opportunity to take pride in one's own racial enclave is expressly forbidden to white students, and no race other than blacks practice racial segregation on campus. The only other group in the USA which practices racial self-segregation is high-security prison populations.
They stick to their own race, run drugs, try to protect their turf.
The main problem with Netflix's, the dean's argument, is of course hypocrisy, but it is also an explicit endorsement of society-wide racial segregation. If it is a good thing for students to separate by race in college, then it must follow that the private sector and residential communities should also adopt these practices. But if Vermont were to declare themselves a white enclave and decree that only whites could reside there, the same people who support racial segregation on campus would scream racism and oppose Vermont's decree. Something I've noticed in woke media is that sometimes there's an accidentally good moment, usually when the writers inadvertently reveal a negative trait in a character they want the audience to root for, or vice versa. Here's an example from a video I did on Concord's Secret Level episode.
Really? You're gonna sell your captain?
You want everybody to die for you?
Who in their right mind would be willing to die for this wanker? Fever Dream is an imperious, rude, aggressively and deliberately ugly, in-your-face, insufferable Karen. Any crew of pirates in the galaxy would toss her hairy ass out the airlock and collect the money the second they saw the bounty come up on screen. At the end of episode 9 of Dear White People, Troy breaks up with Mandra, provoking the following exchange. Are you fucking kidding me?
We never said we were exclusive.
I told you the names of our kids, and you said nothing. That's a relationship.
That's a delusion.
Maudlin's response to being rightfully reprimanded for her delusions is as follows. 30 years from now, when I am the second black female president, all you'll be able to do is think about me, and I won't remember your name. This woman has just been accused of being delusional, and her response is to assert that she will one day be the most powerful person in the world.
You honestly think you've won? Your puny mind never could understand. I am Frieza, the most powerful being in the universe.
The writers think that Mandrake is making an empowering speech, similar to her 200 Years a Slave speech, but the opposite is true. She sounds ridiculous. She sounds like a woman who spends far too much time up her own ass and not nearly enough time in the real world. Troy is supposed to be the bad guy here, but he comes off as sensible and real. Thoroughly fed up with Moria's nonsense, Troy tears into her in what might be the single most fucking based speech in Netflix history. I will be the Empress of the Galaxy, and you will be dust. Love, let me tell you what's actually gonna happen. So you're not going to be president, You'll graduate to a job in PR working for a Wall Street asset management firm on a DEI hiring spree. After Troy leaves you alpha widowed, you can't stay with one guy more than a few months. You get passed around between Chad, Chet, Brett, Tyrone, Cody and Bodie, and are single at graduation. At your Wall Street firm, you meet Chad, who you marry. He fires a couple of kids up you. You fob the kids off onto Maria, your housemaid, and spend more and more time with the girls from the firm. Your dreams of politics end when you audition to run for Congress for the Democrats, but are passed over because you have the charisma of a used condom discarded in the back alley of a gay nightclub. Something you are slow to realise but begrudgingly accept by the age of 30. Around the mid-20s, DEI is increasingly coming to be seen as a failed experiment that was far more costly than anticipated. What was supposed to be a cheap virtue signal turned into a financial disaster. You get laid off along with most of your fashionable social set and are now stuck at home with Maria and the kids, bored out of your mind and not even getting laid anymore because your husband is having an affair with his secretary. Not that you care because you never loved the lazy bastard anyway. The inevitable divorce goes through about a year later. Although you get half, you're surprised by how little money you walk away with. You spend it on a deposit for a house in the burbs because you're done with the city. By your mid-30s, you're a jaded, burned out single mom who is increasingly dependent on wine, working in PR for some fucking company, who cares, occasionally able to hook up on Tinder, but completely shut out of a relationship with even halfway decent men because you're a middle-aged alco with 2 kids. It's shit, but it could have been worse. One day, you read on Facebook that ABC has died of a fentanyl overdose. This brightens your day a little. You type out a platitudinal tribute to her, then go to Starbucks to order your 4th coffee of the day, out of boredom more than anything else. Episode 9 of Dear White People is another meandering, plotless snooze fest. Having completely exhausted the threadbare plot by episode 7, the writers rely on characters to keep the audience engaged for the final 3 episodes, and it does not work. These characters are far too undeveloped, unlikable, and boring, and none of them are engaged in interesting activities that the audience can invest in, such as, for example, Mark Zuckerberg's creation and expansion of Facebook in the social network. Early in episode 10, ABC introduces her guest, Fresh Prince, thusly:
"The man whose personal tragedy led us all to protest."
This line shows how incredibly pampered and out of touch the creators of this show are. Having a gun pulled on you isn't a personal tragedy. It's a case of shit happens. Cops can be assholes. Thank God no one got hurt. The 2 main incidents which fuel season 1's plot are a Halloween party with spicy costumes, a cop pulls a gun on Fresh Prince. The writers think these incidents are of immense significance, but even a committed viewer would struggle to give a fuck about either. No one cares. And they shouldn't care because nothing particularly bad happened, no one was hurt, and nothing is at stake. At most, the 2 inciting incidents will suffice to get the show through 2 episodes, but the writers tried to squeeze 10 episodes from them. Disney Plus shows are notorious for having shoestring plot scraped over too much runtime. Particularly infamous examples are The Reva Show featuring Obi-Wan Kenobi, Ahsoka, The Acolyte, Secret Invasion, Echo, and WandaVision. In my review of The Acolyte, I invented the term plot stretch to describe this technique. Dear White People is the worst case of plot stretching I have ever seen. Okay, so I just had a genuine laugh out loud moment. Earlier, I skipped Fresh Prince's Declaration of Independence remix. In this scene, he goes on ABC's show and reads it. And here is one of his lines.
"White skin, light skin, but for me, not the right skin."
Which makes him the first ever black man to rhyme the words white and right while moaning about the experience of being black in America. Extra points for originality of topic, by the way, Fresh. Soylennial shows up and ABC confesses that she fucked Fresh Prince. When Soylennial asks why, ABC responds,
"I needed to know for sure what I wanted."
Now at this point, Soylennial needs to say, right, okay, laters love, good luck with the revolution. And look, I know what I'm talking about, man. I had an ex-girlfriend who admitted that she had cheated on me 3 times. And you know what I did? Fucking dumped her. End of. It's alright though. I had insurance. In an act of preemptive revenge sex, I one-nighted a Thai girl I met in Itaewon on Halloween. Christy, if you're watching, I'm not sorry. But instead of cutting this rotten little bitch out of his life there and then. Soylennial says something to the effect of, "Oh, I don't know what I want either," then runs away. To his credit, Soylennial does break up with ABC near the end of the episode. ABC heads to the college town hall about gun safety to protest against guns. Chad shows up to do a different protest and she and Chad start arguing. At one point, ABC says, "None of this is a threat to you because you already have the power, Chad." I could pull together some research to demonstrate that contrary to ABC's assertion, white Americans are not exempt from being shot to death, but I'm tired of this show. So instead,
You want to play a little game?
as it turns out, Scott was wearing a bulletproof vest when he was last executed, so he's fine now. I am going to pull up X. If the first post I see is negative, Scott will be executed. If it is positive, he will be spared. Right, the audio quality is not going to be great here, but let's get on with it. Okay, X. Digital ID to launch in UK. This is absolutely happening and real. The protest gets a bit rowdy, Troy breaks a window and gets arrested, and the season ends with the grievance gang talking shite while watching an in-world fictional show that is undoubtedly vastly superior to this bollocks. Season 1 of Dear White People is without doubt the worst season of TV I have watched on Netflix, and it's about to get far worse. Season 1 received a 61% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes and a 2.1 on Metacritic from the 7 viewers that bothered to rate it. Season 4 received a 16% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes and a 0.8 on Metacritic from 6 viewers. I'm not watching seasons 2 or 3 because I'm sure it's just more of the same, but somehow worse. Season 2 was rated 52% on Rotten Tomatoes and Season 3 got 27%. Now, I am a resilient despot. I am willing to suffer on behalf of my subjects, but even I have my limits. But don't fucking complain, alright? I watched the full season of this shite for you people!
What do you mean, you people?
I have ordered the Netflix staff to assemble for outdoor aerobics while they are exercising. I will watch the first episode of Dear White People, Season 4.
Select target. Nuclear missile launched.
That was bad.
And I would walk 500 miles an hour.
Season 4 of Dear White People is a gayer, lamer, more confusing version of Season 1. All the same wankers are still here, but somehow worse. ABC has developed into a wannabe propagandist. She sold a documentary about sexual harassment on campus to CNN and tries to get signed as a full-time propagandist with various streaming services. Troy is now soy. He has gone full soy woke and given up the awesome, assertive business suit for the garb of the blacktivist. He now wears a passive, pansy-ass wallflower tweed getup that wouldn't look out of place in a vegan cafe, and rocks a hairstyle that looks like a limp dick version of the Killmonger cut. Fresh Prince rocks a full Killmonger cut, which was the worst black hairstyle to emerge this century. The best thing Jaden Smith ever did was to make that hairstyle radioactive. The second best was his "I'm not a coward" monologue.
I'm not a coward!
Soylennial's one redeeming aspect was that he dumped ABC after she cucked him. Well, he's back with her. I knew this guy had my wife's boyfriend vibes as soon as I saw him. Once again, the despot's instincts prove correct. ABC bragged to Soylenna Cook's face that she was riding Fresh Prince's cock, and now Soylenna Cook is singing songs of simpery to her. The Soylenna Cook version of 1000 Miles is now a serious contender for worst cover version of all time. Other candidates include Where Is My Mind by... what was his name? James Blunt. Way out in the water. He was a thing in the UK for 5 minutes a million years ago. And Across the Universe by David Bowie. Young Americans is Bowie's worst album. Don't even attempt to change my mind. Token is there, he's still black, and he's still gay.
You are black and gay.
A reflection of myself.
A reflection of yourself.
But wait!
There's more!
He's even more black because a future version of him has become a professional racism grifter, and he's even more gay because he's shacked up with a theater kid who is also black and gay.
I'm black and I'm gay. And when you grow...
Yes, thank you, Mr. Reflection. And of course, all the insufferable, preachy, unqualified, anti-white racist rubbish is still pouring out of this bollocks like sewage from a broken septic tank.
Since white people have started caring about racism again, we might actually be able to shame them into giving us some of what we deserve.
But we're done with the politics of this show. I'm not wasting another breath on it. If you agree with wank like this...
My dream to be celebrated by white people while I drag them.
Oof. Great. Good for you, let me know why in the comments. Non-playable sheep will be so thrilled he'll take you to Starbucks and buy you a soy-steamed superfood sustainable mushroom flat white mocha pecan crunch potato spice chai oatmeal green drop blue venti nectarine sugar orange French press flash brew java fusion premium blend frappe. Apart from the awful characters and disgusting propaganda, the worst aspects of Dear White People Season 4 are the music and the narrative. The narrative is so badly structured that the story is almost impossible to follow. Episode 1 starts in the future, which is a parody that was obviously written during COVID, based on the idea that the Great Reset was successful. It sounds vaguely interesting, it isn't. It's just Token sitting in a room talking shite with ABC. So more characters lounging around talking shite, but it's different because masks. Confusingly, ABC and Token discuss plans for their future present, but also discuss the events of their past, which is the present narrative as presented in Season 4. Their discussions of the past frame the present day narrative, but the present day narrative is made less comprehensible because it is constantly interrupted by...
Nothing comes from dreamers.
This narrative structure is a complete mess and makes an already dreadful show an even worse viewing experience. And now on to the music. The songs aren't narrative, they do not advance the plot. In some instances, they spend several minutes communicating to the audience what could have been communicated in a single sentence. For example, episode 2 features recruiters repeatedly singing, "We want you," to Fresh Prince, and Fresh Prince singing in callback, "They want me." This goes on for almost 3 minutes. 3 minutes of unlistenable shite when they could have simply done this. "Hey, you're Fresh Prince, right? Awesome haircut, buddy. I love Jaden Smith. We've heard all about you, pal, and we'd love to work with you. Let me tell you about what we offer at Awesome Games." But at least episode 2 fires out the big, filthy, steaming turd all in one go. In episode 1, the same song is performed in mini segments across the episode instead of all at once. The small fraction of viewers that are enjoying the song won't get to listen to it properly, and the tiny fraction of viewers enjoying the narrative won't get to enjoy that because of the constant interruptions by mini musical numbers. Episode 1 sacrifices narrative flow but doesn't compensate with proper musical numbers. To emphasize how irrelevant to the plot the songs are, here is one verse of the lyrics to Season 4's debut song. "Can you mention when we're gonna get to it? I'm tired of messing around, said I wanna do it. I learned my lesson, y'all, and said if you wanna have fun, go for it. And when you win, say I know it." No mention of plot relevant characters or events, just a vague bilge of half-assed crap. And these lyrics are atrocious. I earlier referenced a list of rules I gave my writing students. One of these rules was to avoid the use of the word it. Instead, use a noun, pronoun, or synonym. Correct word usage makes your writing easier to understand and more pleasant to read. The first verse of this song uses the word it 4 times. On all occasions, there is no antecedent. In terms of rhyming, the word it is rhymed with the word it 3 times in one verse. Let's apply Despot theory to these garbage lyrics to see if they can be salvaged. "Can you mention when we're gonna get to life? I'm tired of messing round, said I wanna bite. I learned my lesson, y'all, and said if you wanna have fun, go have fun. And when you win, say I'm just beginning." It's still pretty bad, but it is a considerable improvement on what it was before I changed it. The vocals are despicable. Auto-tune on steroids. Auto-tune is the dark lighting of the music industry. Everyone fucking hates it. But the industry won't stop doing it, and Season 4 of Dear White People is saturated in the shite. At the end of episode 1, Soy agrees to let ABC film the annual Varsity show, which he might be producing, I honestly don't know. So, episode 2.
Nuclear weapon available. Select target. Nuclear weapon launched. Nuclear warhead approaching.
Okay, enough. We're done here. I got 10 minutes into episode 2, a bunch of recruiters sang a full-length song to Fresh Prince telling him how much they want him.
I wanna get with you.
I had to endure Fresh Prince's singing. Then it is revealed that this episode is concurrent with the events of episode 1, but told from a different perspective. Instead of ABC's career day, this is Fresh Prince's career day. In season 1, they dumped a horse carcass into episode 1 and flogged it for plot until it was a bloody skeleton. Now the showrunners are just rerunning the same episode with different camera angles. The same technique would later be used in The Acolyte. I will give the writers credit though, they really innovated on their characters mill around talking shite style of narrative non-development. In episode 2, characters sit on their computers and talk shite, and instead of milling around and talking shite, they dance around singing shite. Okay, I'll tell you what, I feel bad for executing Scott so much over the course of this video, so we'll watch Dear White People for 2 more minutes. If during that 2 minutes there's a white people badism, we'll put Scott out of his misery once and for all. If not, he's free to go. Karen, iPhone, roll it from 10 minutes in.
That show's just white people fundraiser bait.
Please, just one.
Netflix never released any viewership data on Dear White People, but the Netflix trailer for season 1 currently has 5.1 million views. Their announcement trailer for season 4 has 80,000 views. For comparison, Netflix's season 1 trailer for Stranger Things has 14 million views. Their recent trailer for season 5 has 22 million views. Season 1 of Dear White People has 2,500 user ratings on Rotten Tomatoes. Season 4 has 100. On IMDb, the average number of user ratings per episode for season 1 is around 800. The average for season 4 is 130. YouTube suggests a 96% drop in viewership, Rotten Tomatoes a 98.5% drop, and IMDb an 84% drop, which averages out to 93%. Dear White People lost approximately 93% of its audience over the course of its 4-season run. Season 4 was so horrifically shit that even critics were no longer pretending to like it. Critics had lined up obediently to bleed out their endorsement of season 1, giving it a 95% score on Rotten Tomatoes from 61 critic reviews. Season 4 got 67% from 6 critic reviews. Following its disastrous final season, Dear White People was quickly forgotten. The careers of the cast went nowhere, and the mastermind behind the series, Justin Simien, went on to direct one movie, Haunted Mansion, which bombed, and according to Deadline, lost Disney $117 million. Now, for those of you who have viewed up to this point in the video, I have a very special surprise for you. Karen iPhone, unveil special surprise 66.
I'm very proud to be the first woman.
Yes, Kathleen Kennedy features in this story. Unlike the Despot, Kathleen Kennedy liked what she saw when she watched Dear White People. She was so impressed that she hired Justin Simien as lead showrunner for the upcoming Disney Plus series Lando. In typical Kathleen Kennedy fashion, after hiring Simien and announcing him as the showrunner for this exciting new series at Disney Investor Day 2020, Kathleen Kennedy provided no updates on Lando thereafter. Lando ended up as one of many unrealized Lucasfilm productions announced by Kathleen Kennedy. Quoting from Wikipedia now. In July 2023, Simien revealed he had not been given any updates on Lando since 2020. Simien said,
"I'm attached, I think, but I don't really know."
When asked if he was still writing Lando, he knew it was very possible he had been quietly fired, saying,
"Am I too black? Am I too queer and people just don't want to say that?
My own theory on the matter is that Disney hired Simeon as part of their reaction to the George Floyd overdose. At the time, every corporation in the West were exhibiting their anti-racist credentials like an interviewee at a BlackRock job interview. Simeon was black and gay, so Disney regarded him as one more solid ring in their anti-racist chainmail armor. And anyway, the guy's just a cheap diversity hire. What's the worst that could happen?
Disney's Haunted Mansion ends up a catastrophic flop with just $33 million box office debut.
Well, one box office bomb, one dead IP, and $117 million lost dollars later, Disney found out the worst that can happen when you hire a tunnel-visioned, one-note, identity politics-obsessed hack whose recent series lost over 90% of its audience. Perhaps our boy Justin will have more luck with his upcoming Star Trek project? Surely only good things can come out of a collaboration between the creators of Dear White People and Star Trek Section 31, a movie I saw and whose name I had to look up to remember it. Dear White People has been completely forgotten. It now lies abandoned amidst the detritus of Netflix's Black Lives Matter page, a relic of a cultural era that is now shrinking into the rearview mirror as we eagerly speed away from it, the woke era. But you know what? Maybe Dear White People just wasn't made for me. So to finish, Mr. Reflection, please present your review of Dear White People.
It was magical.